Nic Peterson here. I'm going to talk about learning and mastery through trial and error and the importance of working with your hands. Now, that's called a mechanical knowledge, the actual knowledge of how things work because you've done it, right? In today's world, where everything's kind of audio or podcast or big picture, there's a lot of intellectuals who will make you think that the art of working with your hands is a lower form of intelligence. And that's, we kind of see that idea throughout everything, right? Like blue collar workers make less money kind of thing. But the fact is that the highest form of intelligence is mechanical. If you look at the people changing the world, the Elon Musks, the Henry Fords, the Charles Darwins, they got their hands dirty, right? They were actually working on that mechanical knowledge. How do things actually work? And this is through a process of trial and error. Okay, so intellectualizing about things may have its benefits, but that mechanical knowledge is what makes the practical application possible. Changing the world, changing your life, actually becoming better and more useful as a human being, which is kind of the point of this whole, how do I take this information, learn it, master it, and become an asset? How do I become better as a human being? And it comes from actual mechanical knowledge. And I talk about this a lot. The first step is replacing the concept of failure with discovery, because that's what it is. The Wright brothers were not failing over and over and over again. They were discovering how to make this machine fly. Elon Musk with Tesla, or just Tesla in general, has done phenomenal things, but they didn't fail a million times. They discovered how to create what Tesla is today through trial and error, right? Getting active and working with the hands. So that's kind of the overview here. And the important thing to remember is that the only way to get accurate feedback is through working with your hands. Okay, so the mechanical knowledge allows for accurate feedback. For example, you may understand the concept of riding a bike, and it may be explained to you that when you're riding a bike and you start veering to the left, you are supposed to turn into that. And maybe you understand that, maybe you don't. But the first time you get on a bike and you're all wobbly and you start turning to the left, naturally you're going to turn to the right, trying to compensate. Only then, when you've wiped out and scraped your knee up, do you understand, okay, I need to turn to the right, right? You don't really have a true understanding until you have done it. So do not degrade the idea of working with your hands if it is something you are looking to truly master and learn. Again, if you're just trying to memorize stuff, memorize it for whatever you need to memorize it for and let it go. Okay, so great historical examples, the Wright brothers, simply because they were two kids, they were underfunded, undereducated, and there were a ton of people paying the top engineers in the world to do what the Wright brothers were trying to do. And the Wright brothers beat them. How? Mechanical knowledge. They were the only ones that were testing their own invention, which gives them also what's called a tacit knowledge, a knowledge that is you feel, but it's really hard to communicate, right? So when you have a pilot that is testing somebody else's invention and giving feedback, there's going to be some loss in that translation because they can't fully translate the feeling, the thought, that kind of stuff. When you work with your hands, when you are going through this process of trial and error, you're going to develop a tacit knowledge. It's not explicit. You can't explain it to anybody, but internally you know that, ooh, this felt a little off. I think I can make this tiny adjustment. And that's what the Wright brothers did. So they developed the first flying machine, not because they had the most money, not because they were most educated. They simply had the most test runs and the most feedback. And the beautiful thing about feedback is it's real. There's no forecasting, right? We don't forecast what's going to happen. By getting your hands dirty, you can tinker in the real world and get real world feedback. In theory, when we do this, this will happen. In real life, when we did this, this happened. And that allows you to kind of compare why were they different, which allows you to develop a more accurate forecasting system in the future. But that's all through mechanical knowledge, is doing the freaking thing, right? Entrepreneurs, for example, do this really, really well. They fire off tiny bullets. They call it tiny bullets. I think that's from Michael Masterone. But that is simply a ton of little trials to get feedback, which allows them to determine which paths to keep going down. So in theory, we think this and this and this is going to work really well, but we do all 10 of these things, and the market tells us that these 3 things are being responded to really well. The response is positive. Not the 3 things we thought, but the process of trial and error, getting dirty and testing things, has shown us the way to make the most money, have the biggest impact, get people excited. Okay, so there's this mechanical knowledge, just actually knowing how things work because you have done them. Whether you can explain how they work or not is not terribly important. Okay, that's a tacit knowledge, and that's fine. Can you do it? The path to mastery, the path to learning is, do you understand how things work? Not can you use fancy words to explain to your friends how they should work, right? Big difference. So keep that in mind. Do not degrade mechanical intelligence, and keep following the process. There is never, ever a straight line. Any successful person on the planet, not a linear straight line. Sometimes it's a little jagged because they corrected quickly. Sometimes it's just massively erratic because it took a little bit longer to correct. But the point is, they did a thing, corrected, and the more often you do a thing, the more often you can correct, the less time you spend off course, right? So that's the mechanical knowledge, the trial, the error, the getting a feeling for things, developing that tacit knowledge that you can feel this, right? Maybe you can't explain it. Maybe you don't have the words for it. It doesn't matter. You can feel this, and therefore you can make the appropriate adjustments. Most people cannot tell you why they make the adjustments they make while they're riding a bike. But over time, they get better and better and better at it. And from a practical application standpoint, all that matters is that you're getting better at riding the bike. Hope you guys realize you just got hit with some really powerful and pragmatic stuff. Don't you think? I do. And if you agree, hit the thumbs up button below and like the video. Let me know in the comments what other videos you want to see, what you want me to expand upon, and what questions you have. And remember, all of this stuff is only as powerful as the actions you take in your execution, the practical applications you can derive from it. So let's see how quickly and effectively and efficiently you can master the things to come. You're going to get information here that's going to help you on your journey that you will not find anywhere else. So be sure to subscribe. You don't want to miss one of these videos.